Hello, I'm Joseph Malazzi, creator of Dark Matter, and you are listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting edition of Kneel Before Pod. I'm your host, Craig McKenzie, and the topic of the day is the recently finished first season of the X-Men TV show, The Gifted. Second recorded podcast of the year is all about superheroes as usual, and as usual, talking about superheroes is Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hello. I'm not bad. I'm doing alright. I feel like I should have a superhero name. If I'm, called on when no one else is around to talk about superheroes, I feel like I should have a, cool
for the
superhero
purposes
name.
of this, you need to decide what your mutant power is.
My mutant power?
Yeah.
Oh, what my actual mutant power would be, or what mutant power I would like.
Your actual one. Let's go for that. It'll be funnier.
My actual mutant power. My actual mutant power is the ability to break a microphone at 20 paces.
Funnily enough, mine is to break any technology completely at random and for no reason at all. So.
Yeah. The one that would make my job easier would be the ability to fix technology and, be able to manipulate computers or something with my mind. I don't know. That would be pretty cool for my job, I suppose. It would be a bit of a rubbish power overall, but it'd be pretty cool for my job. It would save me a lot of time.
Yeah, it also means you wouldn't have to invest in remote control software. It'd be fine.
Oh, that's true. I'd probably be the sort of rubbish mutant at the first X-Men film that can change TV channels by blinking.
It's the second X-Men film.
Yeah, the one.
Nerd alert.
Is it the second film that is?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah.
You don't know what else that kid can do, though. You know that he also doesn't sleep.
Oh, he doesn't sleep, but he just changes channels and does all that. Yeah.
Yeah, he just sits up all night watching TV for 3 seconds per channel. I don't know. I think I'd get more done if I didn't have to sleep, but that's another debate. Yeah, so we'll
Imagine
go with
all
that.
the TV shows you could review.
I know. Well, yeah. It would give me another, 3-4 hours a day? So, it'd give me that much more time. And I'd probably just spend
That's
them
what coffee was invented for.
Yeah, but eventually I would just pass out, and I don't like coffee. I would start hallucinating eventually as well, which wouldn't be good. It might make the shows more entertaining, I suppose, but, hallucinations. Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. Right, so The Gifted is a TV show. And that's it. It's a TV show. No, it started in October, I believe. God, that was a while ago. And it is a X-Men show that isn't quite an X-Men show. It's about a bunch of mutants on the run from the law, trying to make their way in the world. Is that a fair description? I think a pretty fair description.
It sounds fair to me, yeah. It sounds like it's lifted from the page.
Which page, though? Mine. I can say what I want on my page. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just without spoiling the show for anybody, what did you think of it overall? 13 episodes. I was told there was only going to be 10 initially, which means I got stuck with another 3 reviewing them, which annoyed me, but it was 13. So, 13 episodes overall. What was your impression?
Overall, my impression, it's one of those difficult podcasts where I didn't hate the programme, so I can't rant about it for hours, and I didn't sort of love it massively, so I'm not going to be able to wax lyrical about it for hours, but I thought it was alright. It had a more promising start than it had a finish, to be honest. There was a little bit in the middle. You're saying that 3 extra episodes got added, or they changed it round so it had 3 extra episodes, and I kind of have had that feeling when watching it, that there were bits where I was like, oh, it feels like we've just repeated an episode here somehow. So yeah, it's it's alright. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. I mean, what did you think?
Like you, I thought it had a very promising start. The first few episodes were really good, although it reminded me of Heroes in a way, in terms of how it's structured. So what you would do is you'd have really strong elements in an episode, and then you would skip to people you don't care about, and their thing would happen, and then you go back to kind of You maybe go along with someone else you don't care about, and then eventually you get back to the thing you're interested in. It's like that, it's kind of patchy. It's probably as good as it was bad, to be honest. Episode by episode, and some episodes were elevated because they were focusing on the things I found more interesting, or that were less repetitive. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I don't think in its first season it learned what it wanted to be as a show, which is difficult. You think by episode 13 it would have some semblance of identity, which it didn't ever feel like it latched onto. Does it want to be a teenage show? Does it want to be about young adults? Does it want to be about minorities? Does it want to be, there's about 50 things it could be about, and it doesn't really manage to be about any of them.
But do you have the feeling that they were just sort of stabbing about going, well, we'll give this a try, and this a try, and if we get renewed for season 2, we'll know what worked, and we will carry that on, and the rest of it we can sort of peel away without any damage?
Could be. It wouldn't be unheard of for a show like this to kind of throw everything at the wall and see what people respond to. But it does just kind of feel a bit unfocused and a bit patchy, and some of the time it just feels like there's not much going on, which is a problem. There was, like you said, there were some episodes where there was no forward movement on anything whatsoever.
Yeah, there was a lot of, this is the episode where we go into holding pattern because we're wanting all of this to come to fruition at the same time.
Yeah.
It's difficult to talk about without going into the spoiler section, but yeah, there's elements of that, and like you say, Heroes is exactly what I wanted to think. In fact, I've got sort of scribbled on a pad in front of me, is this Heroes again? Because it's a body going after people with powers to do experiments, and other heroes in the background that want to do, heroes in the background, other people with abilities in the background that are wanting to go a slightly different slant, and they all sort of come face to face with each other, and like you say, you go into these little sub-stories of other people and see how the other side are going, see what their family life is like, then bring them back in and sort of mangle up a bit, which can work really well to an extent if it gives you a smarter angle, but sometimes it just seemed like, we're going to try and fill out this person's backstory because we want this character to matter to people, but then it doesn't quite work because the story seems a bit dull, and you're like, I didn't want to see what his dull day was like. I wanted to go back to everyone else.
Yeah.
Maybe show me a very quick thing of his dull day when it makes sense, rather than just cram it in here and go, right, that'll do. Got a bit of exposition about him out the way this week, yeah.
Yeah, well, the funniest thing is, when Heroes was on, everyone was like, is this just X-Men? Is this like their excuse to make an X-Men TV show? And there was also Mutant X as well, which was accused of being very X-Men-like because it had X in the title as well. But that was rubbish. Shouldn't watch that. It was terrible. Oh, God. Flashbacks. Painful Mutant X flashbacks. I think I saw about 4 episodes and it was not good. So I don't think we can say much more without spoiling it, as you say. So shall we just launch into the spoiler section?
Yes.
Okay, we can spoil everything now. Again, listeners, if you're one of those people that listens to 5 minutes and thinks, I better watch this show, then come back, make yourself known. There will be a live mention one day. So this is the second, not including cartoons, for the pedants out there. I'm one of these pedants. Not including cartoons, this is the second live-action X-Men based television show. Or second show that features mutants, certainly. I don't know if you can call Legion an X-Men show. But this one is a bit more traditional, in the sense that it's a group of mutants following a linear plot to, that makes sense, which is not what Legion was at all. What do you think of the idea of putting a more legitimate, more traditional X-Men superhero-ish group dynamic TV show on television?
Do you think it's a more traditional version? I mean, it's
in the sense that plot point A leads to point B leads to point C. Yes. I mean, we talked about Legion at length.
It's not as art housey, for want of a better description of it. Yeah. If I think X-Men TV adaptation, I think X-Men TV adaptation rather than Heroes Mutant TV adaptation. Yeah, it's good seeing TV. It's a little bit different in some aspects. In other ones, it feels like I think I've seen this show somewhere before. I think I've seen several elements of this TV show somewhere before.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these shows in their first season, when they're not confident, or the studios might not be 100% confident in them and they're letting them try the water, they still don't give them access to the full toolbox. They don't let them go full hog references. They don't let them sort of tie into a wider universe to an extent. You get to mention bits, you get to hint at bits, but you get to show diddly. You're getting nothing. We're giving you none of our big mutants. You can say that you were ordered by those mutants. You can mention the fact that they existed at some point or other, but you will show nothing. you will describe them only, and even then in very short sentences, and no one will ask questions because they will all assume we know. We've been there. We're not going to ask anymore.
Yeah. Your father, who had magnetic powers, was totally a king in the Hellfire Club, and he had magnetic powers, but we're not going to say his name.
We're mentioning nothing. Yeah.
He looks a bit like Michael Fassbender, but in certain light, he looks a bit like Ian McKellen. It just depends. Depends how you look at it. Yeah. I quite like the idea of doing kind of mutants. I mean, I think it is a bit like an X-Men show in the sense that, I mean, if you read certain X comics, there's been a billion of them, billion types of stories. So that, you get X-Men, you get X-Force, you get X-Factor, not to be confused with that terrible singing competition. And there's a litany of teams out there, and this could just be another one. These are the ones that don't have the resources of a school or a jet under their swimming pool and all that stuff. They're a bit more kind of scrappy. They're essentially on the run, homeless people, struggling to come to terms with the fact that society doesn't accept them. And I think on television you've got way more scope to explore the kind of mutant condition in ways that the films can't, because the films, they have to hit a beat for a little while, and then there needs to be an action set piece, otherwise the audience will get bored. So they get their point across, and they always kind of boiled it down to something very, very simple. Like in the original X-Men movies, certainly the first two, the subtext was that it was a metaphor for essentially being gay, especially the coming out scene in X-Men 2, and they extended it a bit to that kind of us against them, and just any kind of otherness in society. Bryan Singer, when he was directing it, always said things like, we've all felt that outcasts at one time or another, and the X-Men represent that, and I agree with that to a degree, but this show managed to expand it out that bit more, and that's what I liked.
No, I agree. It did give it a chance to breathe a little bit.
Yeah. The one I noted, and it stuck with me, is when they referred to mutant, say, as the ultimate pre-existing condition, which almost turns it into like AIDS, as perceived by certain humans, especially in this show. So it's like, this is a disease that needs to be eradicated. It's disgusting. Don't go near them. It's all that kind of stuff. And that's just a bit of an expansion of the metaphor, and they did a couple of things like that. I mean, you had the otherness, you had the unaccepted teenagers, you had the persecuted minorities. It was all in there, and that's kind of part of the problem, because it wasn't focused on anything. But it just suppose the mutancy thing is like, any time you felt different, you're a mutant. That's
I mean, there was elements of that. I mean, the most the biggest scene where I kind of saw that sort of thing was I think it was Dr. Campbell is the character's name. I hope I'm getting it right.
Yes.
And he's doing a lecture about the evolution of man, and it's the kind of thing that we've seen in the X-Men films before, where Xavier doing a sort of voiceover at the beginning of the titles or whatever, saying man evolved from yeah. So you sort of get that, and he's doing this description, and then it turns from this is an intriguing science lecture into we should burn them all. We should erase them from time. We should do everything we can. We should use all the technological might that we have to wipe them from existence. And there's a bit where it sort of the camera is panning to the students in the lecture, and I was thinking, oh, and this is when the students boo him off the stage and go, no, we're not going to do that. How dare you? Right? Imagine someone coming up on stage and seeing this. And it's like, no, he gets cheers and rapturous applause, and you're like, oh my God. It's like that. It's like, yeah, okay, truly the propaganda is real, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to consider the fact that if you've got kind of unchecked people with superpowers out there, that's something to kind of be scared of. Is it in the same way that terrorists are out there with bombs and could go off at any time? You know, maybe it is, but the thing about the mutant community is it's as diverse as the human community. You know, you've got people that just want to exist. You've got people that want equality. You've got people that want to break down the system. You know, you've got a range of stuff in there. And I think the show kind of failed. It didn't fail, but it wasn't as good at showing the kind of range of opinion among the mutants. I mean, you'd have the non-named cast members who would have an argument about what their next thing would be. But broadly speaking, the mutants in the show, other than the ones that were working with the Sentinel Services guys, were roughly on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, from the Underground, you kind of got that. All the members of the Mutant Underground seem to be coming from along the same lines. You know, we'll use our powers, but not to harm anyone, simply to protect ourselves, to hide, and to get on. You get other ones, the ones that I think it was Dreamer that had the line about working at a women's aid clinic. Yeah. What she would do is she would use her power to give them better memories, to erase some of the bad memories that the woman had. And I was like, well, that's quite interesting, because that was a character that could have stayed hidden, could have stayed out of the radar completely, but then used her powers to do that, and then joined the Underground, despite the fact she probably could have got away with it without ever raising suspicion. Yeah. So there was a few that had used their powers slightly differently. There was other ones that had just been caught in a situation and had to use their powers, had to steal, or, got forced into just a situation where they couldn't. And I liked how they showed how that was... I liked how they showed that conflict in people, to how different people reacted. They ended up with a similar power set, however, one went on one path and one went on the other, and how they all sort of came around eventually to the same point of view. Though I suppose the last episode, and the way the last episode ends, and with the three sisters towards the end, it shows the completely different view. You're back onto the sort of Brotherhood v X-Men view, where one's going, no, we'll protect people, we'll use our powers for good, we'll just protect other mutants, but we're not going to go out there and on the offensive, we're just on the defensive. Yeah. Whereas the other side are like, no, we're going to use our powers and we are going to be absolutely brutal about it.
Yeah. Incidentally, Sonia was Dreamer's name after about 4 episodes or something. It took them quite a while to tell us what her name was. But yeah, that's one example of how people use things. Clarice just wanted to stay out of the way until she was forced not to. You had Lorna, who's, would always talk about, let's take the fight to them, and very much like her father, who is totally not Magneto. But totally Magneto. So, yeah, there was kind of a range of opinions among there. I mean, like, there was a lot of characters here, that's the thing, and making them distinctive is difficult because it is such a large cast. And so kind of the main characters, I suppose, the show starts with the Struckers, which is an interesting name in a Marvel show. They don't really deal with the whole Strucker thing as per the wider Marvel universe, but I'm actually surprised that Marvel let them be used as a name, because I'm just surprised. All this ownership and all that stuff, which no longer matters, of course.
I know, but it's still one where you're sort of sitting there thinking, oh, really? They went down that route instead of going... But it's all these bits that fall in the grey area in between the sort of Marvel, Fox rules, Yeah. And so you end up with your multiple Quicksilvers and all this, There is the characters that fall in between. Yeah.
It's all...
They dealt with that.
Yeah. But yeah, the Strucker. So it starts. I mean, it starts with them, and you have two teenagers at high school, and you have Lauren, who's the it girl. She's very popular. She's got her handsome boyfriend, her clique of friends, and you've got her brother, who's a bit of a loser. He's picked on and all that stuff. And it doesn't take you that long to learn that. Who's it? It's been that long since I saw the first episode. Andy's the first one to exhibit powers, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
I think he's the first one that you see that's... Yeah.
Yeah, out of the two of them anyway. And it's when he's getting tortured in the shower room and he just collapses the whole thing. And then Lauren shows up and shows her powers. But before that, you've got this kind of should we be sympathetic towards mutants type conversation. And I think Lauren's certainly on the side of the mutants. And Andy isn't, for some reason, as far as I recall. I could be making that up.
Yeah, it does seem that he's not on the fence, but on the other side. It's like it's an interesting dynamic, and even then, the parents are on the exact same page. They're basically ignoring the situation exists until it actually affects them, and I'm pretty sure they signpost at several points. Through the following episodes going, we wouldn't be involved in any of this if it wasn't for the fact that our kids have been involved. If not, we'd still be in our house happily ignoring the fact that this is going on, ignoring the fact that people are being sent to detention centres or whatever. We'd not care. We'd think, well, that's good. They deserve it.
Well, the thing about Reed is he was a bigwig in Sentinel Services for the first two episodes, or episode and a bit, and that's a bit bizarre because... I didn't find his leapfrog in ideology all that believable, at least initially, because...
Well, he wasn't Sentinel Services, wasn't he? He was like a prosecutor that, obviously, when Sentinel Services bring people in, they then go through the criminal justice system, so then he would prosecute on behalf of, but not exclusively... is the feeling I get of Sentinel Services. So it wasn't like he was working solely for them.
Yeah, but he was very much being like, you've been captured by these guys, you're their problem now. He seemed unsympathetic to begin with. And I was actually looking forward to this whole, when his children turned out to be mutants, what he would think about that, how he would react to that, and whether that would change. Well, obviously, it started off with, he was sympathetic anyway, he was just hiding it, but... I would have liked it if he was a bit torn because, oh my god, my kids are mutants. I hate mutants.
Well, I liked that they kind of jumped right in by, obviously the destruction of a section of the school and all the threat that gives, basically put them right up the radar right away.
Yeah.
I thought that, they're going to do this slow reveal, the kids slowly find out they've got powers, start playing about with them, he maybe eventually finds out and they say, oh no, hide it, and then it's going to be this big delayed thing before eventually his job and his family life are just going to collide together and one of them's going to get arrested for something. Instead, they brought that to the fore right away and went, no, your kid's just damaged property, it was a terrorist act, it was a threat to life, it was this, and basically threw all the charges in right away, and he sees basically what he's been getting landed with each time a mutant's come in with all these charges on the charge sheet. He's just been prosecuting them each time, but not going, actually, there wasn't a terrorist act, this was someone accidentally using the powers, discovering they've got powers for the first time in a stressful situation, and this is what happened. So I kind of get where his worldview changed because it was his own kids and because of the extreme circumstances on it. It wasn't that, they're going to be, it's alright, they're going to get a slap on the wrist this time and let off, but don't let it happen again. This was going to be full-blown charges instantly. So...
Yeah, I just kind of thought that, obviously he was always supposed to be sympathetic. You see that flashback in the bowling alley, I think it is, where he sees a mutant and he's like, look, I'm going to look the other way this time, but be careful. I just really quite like the idea of just seeing a parent who's like, I hate mutants, and now my kids are mutants, and that would have been an interesting arc for him to follow, especially if his wife didn't think the same thing. And I actually think this show vastly underused Amy Acker, who's much better than this. And because her character was very kind of samey throughout, and especially the first 3 or 4 episodes is where the Strucker parents, they learn the same lesson every week. They go somewhere, something happens, and they're like, oh no, maybe we should be more sympathetic towards this cause, or the real world works differently to what we previously expected. It's like, you learned this a couple of weeks ago. Like, and you almost got everyone killed doing it then too. So like, why are the underground still putting up with you people? Because you're just running off and putting everyone in danger every week.
Like I say, like I said earlier on, it was like one of those things where you see these loops that seem to go round. And like you say, that first bit was you seem to be learning the same lesson each week, which is the way mutants are treated is awful. And if people think you're trying to help mutants, they will treat you equally as badly, and it'll get people in trouble. And by the way, tell people what the hell you're doing. Don't just run off and do it because you're going to get in deep doo-doo each time. It just, like you say, they don't learn. Just goes round. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the strongest stuff was with the whole teenage angle, especially since you had Lauren and Andy. They were kind of two sides of the same coin. Literally, actually, because they did the whole... Their powers are connected. When they hold hands, they're really dangerous. And I don't know. I'm glad they didn't go through some kind of pseudo-incestuous plot with that. You know, this. Once they link arms, they're unstoppable. Because that's just creepy and weird. But so you had... Andy was much angrier at the world. He was more resentful of humans, and Lauren was much more tolerant and trying to calm him down. And it was just interesting. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So you've got one kid who thinks this thing, one kid who thinks that thing. Watch them argue with each other. But you know, it worked well enough, and I think the actors were good. They certainly felt like brother and sister to me.
I think they felt like a very realistic brother-sister dynamic, and also, you know, almost that. Their personalities were reflected in the powers, where you've got Andy that can sort of tear different bits apart, sort of viciously rip things to pieces, and Lauren who's all about sort of protecting things, shielding things. I thought it was, it seemed to be done quite well. It was a sort of neat power set, and the fact that they do both sort of see each other's point of view at different times as well. Yeah. Though obviously towards the last sort of 3 episodes or so, they're sort of poles apart almost. But there were elements of that. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead probably a bit here, but there were elements of that I didn't quite follow this rapid transformation. I mean, you're talking about Reed, and within the first couple of episodes going from all mutants should be locked up to I'm supporting the mutant underground and I'm going to do whatever it takes to pull down the old system. You know, Andy, as much as he has been looking from a different point of view for quite a bit, and more violent isn't the right word in his use of powers, but more let's fight, let's defend, let's go out there. I didn't quite see how the seismic shift to, oh, and by the way, I'm just going to up and leave, I'm just going to go. Yeah. Because I'm now all about taking down buildings and pulling people apart, as well as, you know, as defending, you know, because up until that point, and still to that extent, he's not directly tried to take someone down using his powers.
Yeah, and some of the little moments that I appreciated more, is more to do with Lauren than it was Andy. So things like her being a bit kind of wistful because she was supposed to go pick up her prom dress that day, and things like that, and the fact that she's just been plucked out of a pretty stable, normal life where, you know, she was, well, maybe not the queen bee at high school, but she was pretty well regarded, and her life was in front of her. She got good grades, everything. You know, it was all rosy, and then it got taken away from her just because she was revealed to be a mutant. And it's that kind of tragic aspect to her I found quite interesting. And then her relationship with Wes, even though he was a bit of a dweeb, I like the fact that this is someone her own age she can talk to, and she's not had that for a while. Again, they didn't do much with that, but it was appreciated when it was there. But the thing is, the volume of the cast, the problem is, it's let's have a scene where this happens, let's have a scene where that happens, and this, you know, they get the information across, but get it done very quickly, and it's more annoying when things are repeated, because it's like, well, you already spent a couple of minutes on this, and you've just repeated it, and it's pointless now.
You also get, because you're viewing sort of several relationships, you've got several relationships where you're viewing the same thing happening to several different people. It kind of feels like, oh, I've just watched someone have an argument about keeping secrets from each other, let's have another argument about people keeping secrets from each other. I'd really like to see another couple fight over that again, because I've just watched it. You know, it's, yeah, you do get this. I didn't have too much of a problem with Lauren and Wesley's relationship. I thought it was quite interesting. It gave her, like you say, a sense of normalcy back again as like another relationship, another person her own age. Though there are other people there. It's obviously it's you can only focus on certain characters that are in that place. You got the impression that there were other kids about. I mean, there was enough for them to try and set up a school. So
Yeah. And there was plenty of other mutants kicking about as well. I quite liked Marcos. He was that leader who was a little bit unsure about what he was doing, but kind of went along with it anyway. He did everything he could to keep the team together, to keep the group together, keep everyone happy, keep everyone safe. And the kind of conflict he had with himself, where he had to consider the good of the team over Lorna, who was in prison, and everything. Obviously, he wanted to just barge in there and save her, but that would put too many people at risk.
Yeah, I liked the conflicted leader thing that he had, and I actually quite liked the fact that it didn't seem that there was one specific person that was calling the shots. I quite liked that there was a bit of a team dynamic, and sometimes one would come out on top of the other.
Yeah.
With regards to getting decisions made. Marcus, I liked. I mean, though it seemed like some of his backstory and stuff kind of got lost. Like they went on the whole track with the gang, with the drug cartel,
with the cartel,
or whatever it was. The cartel, and he's the interrogator, and he's went back and he's interrogated this man, and he's blinded another, tried to kill another when he's been out, and but then that seemed to just completely vanish in later episodes. It was talked about as, I can't believe you did that thing, but as far as I'm aware, he never severed ties. He was still involved in everything, but that storyline just seemed, all right, we've run out of space for the storyline just now, bear with us, it might come back or not. I was expecting that to appear somewhere else again or be resolved, but it seemed like it was just forgotten about completely, apart from as an arguing point between characters.
It was kind of only used as a means to an end. It was, he had to go back to his ex-girlfriend because Lorna was captured and they needed some resources, they needed information, so it meant he had to go and do some ethically questionable stuff for her. And that's fine. I mean, I quite like moral ambiguity, but the issue I had with it was the lack of tolerance to anyone else's shoddy past. So you had Wes, who was like a criminal in the past, but he had the justification of, I had to do to survive. Oops, just swore. And then later on, you had Clarice as well. She was like, yeah, I was kind of in the Brotherhood at some point, and I didn't really know, but I did some stuff that was kind of dodgy, and everyone's like, well, we can't trust, or John specifically was like, we can't trust you anymore. It's like, every one of you have probably had to do something that you're not comfortable with just to not die or not be captured, and
that was,
you're forgetting all this.
That was one of those bits that I was like, hang on, you're serious? Hang on, this isn't a bit. I was like, she revealed it, and I was like, oh, so what? All of them appear to have done something. They're all got these weird pasts that they're not particularly proud of. They've all had to do things that they didn't like. And then she goes, I once blinked a few people from the Brotherhood into buildings, and I didn't really know they were Brotherhood at the time, and I was just helping out, thought I was doing a good thing, and then he has this massive fallout. I don't think I can trust you. I think you should leave. I don't think you should be involved in this anymore. And you're like, what? Hang on. Just spent all that time trying to save them, to rescue them, It's like, no, that's it. You're out. You're gone to me. And then
remember the John flashback,
about 4 episodes
breaking into somewhere,
Yeah, and then about 4 episodes later, you've got him going, actually, I see where you're coming from, you're fine. I was like, what was the point in having that in the first place,
It was the same episode.
Yeah,
it was towards the end.
Same episode, a few scenes later, that's what I'm saying. A few scenes later, you've got him sitting there going, yeah, actually, do you know what, forget about it, what I said earlier on, I shouldn't have said that. And you're like, damn right, you shouldn't have. But there was no reason for it to be there in the first place. It was not necessary. It was simply, oh, we can read minds and we've got a bit of information about someone in the room and we can't think of anyone else to give information about, so that character there gets more information. Excellent. And then it just didn't sit with me. It was something that she probably would have felt comfortable talking about at any point, really.
Yeah. It's like, the answer to that should be, from everyone, we don't care. We've all had problems. We've all done things that aren't, that don't paint us in the best light and all that stuff. I mean, and that was part of the problem I had with the show, was all these repetitive arguments. Everyone was arguing about the same thing every week. And the worst part about it was definitely deliberate, because you had a character who existed to exploit the fact that they were doing this. So what you've got people who are deliberately written to be arguing in circles. But the thing is, it's just really frustrating plotting, because it seems like, right, okay, Marcos and Lorna, they've solved their argument about, I don't know what they're arguing about, the whole, we should fight, we should not. We should fight, we should not. And that's all they say. The back and forth. And then Lorna will get angry and storm off, and then Marcos will come up and be like, look, I understand where you're coming from. And then she'll be like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from too. And then give it a week, and they're like, fight, no. And you've got this Esme character, or I'm just going to call them Esme because she was the first one, I suppose. And they're all the same. Like she says, it doesn't matter. And she's there going, just poking little holes in these arguments. She'll weasel her way in and be like, what about this? And then it just kicks it off all over again. And so I don't understand why these people are being deliberately written, other than the writers could only find this way for a character to build an exploit. It doesn't make the exploit clever, although it makes the character kind of clever for noticing it. Although it's very obvious when you're just looking, and she's an outsider looking in, so... Yeah.
I think you've also got the problem of when you've got all these characters with such powers, as much as none of them have sort of godlike abilities, godlike superhuman abilities, if they're all on a united front, if they're all working really well and gelling well together and working as a team, they're almost unstoppable. So you need all these fractions that are breaking off, and people that are maybe not following the rules properly are going off on their own little side quest, because otherwise there'd be no threat. If everyone was together and everyone was working properly towards common goals and sort of working down a task list, rather than sort of, we'll go off and have this argument in a corner, and then I'm going to storm off and be unavailable for this particular fight, because I'm going to go off and do my thing, and I'm not going to tell you about that because I don't want to have a fight, or I've already fought with you about this, so I'm not telling you anymore. And they go off and do their own thing. That I think makes it more believable that Sentinel services are going to get an upper hand, and other people are going to be able to come in and manipulate them. Whereas if they provide too much of a unified front, then it just wouldn't give the same jeopardy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the characters shouldn't argue or disagree. It was just the fact that it was the same stuff all
frequently
the time.
the same thing.
And it seemed to be resolved, and then it would happen again, and it's that same nonsense. It's like over in The Flash, where it's like, no more secrets, next week they keep secrets. No more secrets, more secrets. And, it was doing that kind of formula, which is essentially killing time. They can't go, because they're divided over the same stuff they're always divided on, and it's kind of annoying that way. But yeah, I quite liked how the different personalities would mess up the action scenes. You had this carefully laid plan, and then someone would be like, screw this, I can't be bothered waiting anymore, and they would ruin everything, and that would up the tension. And the show's approach to action, they love the heist type scenario, but I quite liked it, because sometimes it did tell you a little bit about some of the characters.
Like you say, there was a lot of heist, sort of breaking people out, breaking people in, stealing the MacGuffin thing, that was going on. But it gave a goal to the end of the episodes almost. Yeah.
And the first step of every plan was, Clarice, you can get us in. Until she's like, nah, not doing it. I'm going away now. And it's
But it's the usual written in flaky power thing that annoys me sometimes, where you sort of scale up someone's powers and then you completely pull them apart in the next scene.
Yeah.
So you have someone that goes, yeah, I can open up into that corridor just inside. However, 2 scenes later when you say, can you get us in that room? No, I've not seen that room before. Yeah, but hang on, you got us in this building. I'm pretty sure you've never been in this substation before. No, let's forget about that. I can't get you in that room. Like, yeah, but you got us in this substation and you've never seen this substation before. No, definitely can't get you in there. No, siree, no, we're going to have to go the long way. But hang on, we just no. It's like, all right, okay, fine. It's it's too much of a useful tool. It's a bit like Star Trek transporters, isn't it? If you have the ability to beam in and beam out of every single place that you want, it takes jeopardy away from the episode. So it's there's a unnatural gravitational wave that's disrupting us, and they've got a scattering field, so we can't do it. Oh no, okay. So I get why it's there, and I get at other times why it's like, oh my god, for God's sake, will you just, you've either got to have her on side and set a power set and stick with a rule, and then that's it.
Well, she was, the first step of every plan to begin with. I found that quite funny. It's like, stage 1, Clarice gets us in. Stage 2, someone does something. Stage 3, Clarice gets us out. And what if she says no? Like, what if she's like, I'm not doing that? And it's... I think they did a good job of limiting her power to begin with. She had the trouble maintaining portals, and then you had the second episode where she was freaking out and causing portals everywhere, and then you had the whole, I need to have been somewhere, or I need to be able to see it, or whatever else. So yeah, they kind of forgot about it towards the end, but I also remember her from Days of Future Past, where she was just chucking them about as if they were, I don't know, things that you casually chuck about. But on this, there was an actual difficulty to opening them. It clearly took her a lot of energy and a lot of concentration, and that was a bit of a limitation as well. So I like the understated approach, and Lorna's magneto powers weren't that strong. Like it was mentioned that I could never do that before when she pulls the vault door shut. So they were very limited in their power set to begin with, which may have changed as the show went on, but still, it was good that way. That they kept it smaller, because you have to, because it's television anyway.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I like that there was a bit of a physical strain to her doing it. It wasn't as simple as, like you say, in the TV show, in the film, where they're being thrown about. It's my thing, and I've said this in other podcasts about other people's powers. If you listen to any of the podcasts that we do about The Flash or other shows like that, it's like, set a power set and stick to it. Don't keep going, okay, there's a right around for this one, or you have villains that are all powerful until suddenly, they're not powerful at all. In fact, they're completely clumsy, tripping over their own feet, and none of their powers now appear to work, or they just decide not to use them this time because, I'll give them a good shot at it first. So that's my kind of thing about it. I understand from a writer's room point of view, they must sit there battering their head against going, why the hell did we give someone the power to open any door? Why did we do that? Why on earth do we have it's like, and we don't want to kill her because then that stops us making magic doors whenever we want to make magic doors. So they've got to have this sort of, like you say, the torment where she goes, I'm not doing that. I'm not opening a bank vault door. I've decided I'm not going to do that. So there, I'm in a huff with you. I can't believe you made me your girlfriend. I'm off. And that was another bit about that, sort of Clarice's character and the sort of little love triangle that was made. At first you were like, this is going to be like a really fractious relationship, and then seemed to be forgotten at one point, like the obvious love triangle thing. Yeah,
Clarice was one of my favourite characters in it. I always found her really interesting. The fact that she was like noticeably an outsider from the group, the fact is she'd been saved by them, but initially she didn't have any loyalty towards them, and that ended up being what limited her powers initially, because she couldn't connect to them, so she didn't care about them, so therefore couldn't get her powers to work. That was it was interesting stuff. Her contact lenses were super dodgy though. Like, it's really distracting, the big green eyes that are just like, they're clearly stuck in, quite frankly, and it's a bit bizarre, but other than that, I think she was a really interesting character. The implanted feelings for John was an interesting thing. I like how that put her and Sonia at odds with one another, and it was like, I can undo it. It's like, I'm not letting you touch me again, and you can easily see why she'd feel violated by it, because again, we've got that metaphor. This mutant power has essentially caused her to be, raped. She's had something forced upon her that she doesn't want, and that was the subtext there. It didn't go too far into it, but it was there. And then it was, as you say, kind of forgotten about. But I'm glad, because the love triangle wasn't interesting me, but then it was like the whole, I understand why you did that. And it was like, do you though? That's crazy. Like, I wouldn't go near her ever again,
I like that they brought it round, but the bring round seemed not unnatural, but it didn't seem as gradual as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad they did it. It was an interesting way of showing how destructive someone's powers could be, powers that could be used for good. You know, you see, well, you know, like I mentioned earlier on, she talks about the sort of women's aid centre, and then also what she does for the girl who's got the memories of our adopted family getting taken out by Sentinel Services, and she takes that memory away. She does that, and it's a good use of the power, and then the sort of the bad use of the power you see, you know, obviously through the agent who ends up with, you know, and she's devastated when she finds out what she's done, because Agent Turner ends up forgetting that his daughter's died, and that sort of trauma. It's a really conflicted power, and in a way I'm kind of ashamed that she, you know, she got shot and she got taken out the picture. I see why they've done it in some ways, but you know, I was interested to see more of that.
I was kind of I was looking forward to seeing a bit more of the implications of her power as well, like the whole Turner thing. That could have been really interesting to watch, as he kind of had to deal with the loss of his daughter all over again, and it happens at the end of that whatever episode it is, and then it's not mentioned again until a few episodes later when he's like, you know why I don't like mutants? Because they make me relive the death of my daughter all over again. It's like, well, that's cool, you've brought it up, but like, this is after he'd already processed it to some degree, so it was kind of like, yeah, all right, we haven't done this in a while, we better pay lip service to it. And then a lot of the time it just felt like lip service, you know. This isn't character development, this is just reminding us of what's going on.
Yeah, it was solved too quickly, for want of a better description, because you get, oh well, you can't return to work, you're still processing your grief, you're still, I mean, no, I'm back to work. And like, okay, fine, you're back to work. It's like, all right. It's like, I kind of thought, no, you should show that he's on the outside for too long, and then he wins back trust, and then he goes in. You know, it shouldn't be, oh yeah, he just turns back up at work one day and goes, yeah, I'm starting work again, thanks.
Yeah.
It's it needed something else there, and like you say, it did just suddenly get brought up on other occasions, and it was a character I kind of felt disappeared to a certain extent. You know, you've got this Agent Turner who's at front. He was, but he was the main villain at the beginning, really. He was the agent, the guy that is chasing them. You get to see a bit of his backstory. He has this trauma of the memory thing, and then he's forgotten about for Evil Doctor. And then he becomes kind of stooge of Evil Doctor until he gets, you know, and he's one of these ones that you're like, oh, has the guy not suffered enough? When he relives his daughter dying again. Yeah. And then he gets back to work, and then he gets visited at home by the Struckers, who then tell his wife about all the evil and horrible things he's done. He goes, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna, you know, resolve some of my sins. I'm gonna keep them locked up because they still need to be locked up, but I'm taking them out of that evil lab. And then his reward for doing that is watching all of his friends shoot themselves and die in very, very gruesome ways. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, that guy hasn't suffered enough. It's like, surely at that point he should be like, yeah, and I'm going to. Because that is brutal, what that character has gone through. And do you know what? I'm glad in one way that he's still around at the end of this to go off and do his own thing. God knows what his own thing is going to be. Because at this point he must be so messed up on the inside that he's going, I don't know what to do anymore. Yeah. You know, you think he's going to get a nice redemption. You know, oh, do you know what? I've realised, not so much the error of my ways, but I've realised there are better ways of doing this. And then you come out and you think, oh, now he's just going to go full hog. I don't know what the hell he's going to do next.
Well, the ending, he was like, I'm done with this crap, like, in terms of Sentinel Services, and then he just leaves. But he still doesn't love mutants all of a sudden. So they set up that other faction. I can't remember what they were called. Began with a P. Preachers, or whatever it was, I can't remember. Can't remember. Never mind. Those guys. It
was like purifiers or purists or something along those lines.
Purifiers. So, like, they're a logical place for him to go, perhaps. Because he still doesn't like mutants. In fact, has even less reason to like them because one of them or three of them caused all his friends and colleagues to kill themselves. So he's a bit messed up. Fair enough. And maybe season 2 will be his season. You know, and as a villain or as a character. I mean, I think the villains one thing this show does quite well is the villains are quite complex. Turner has a life outside of his villainy, and Campbell is a bit more. He's a bit like inhuman. Let's not talk about Inhumans, but he's a bit. Yeah, he's something other than compassionate, and they do try to humanize him by saying like, my brother died, and that's why I hate mutants for some reason. Doesn't quite stack up, but he's much more kind of mustache twirly, except he doesn't have a mustache.
No, he has got a wicked scar though.
That's true. He can.
He doesn't need the moustache when he's got the wicked scar.
Yeah. So yeah, villain-wise, it was they were all right. I think that in some scenarios, the heist stuff seemed a bit too easy because they weren't using the full gamut of resources that Sentinel Service had. You don't see the robot spiders that often. They've got other stuff. There's all this stuff they could be using.
Hey boss, we've got all these really awesome automated defensive robot spiders. Do you think we should maybe put 6 or 7 of them in the back of each van? No, let's just have one every once in a while, The batteries take hours to charge. Hours to charge, yeah. We've only got the money for one. And
they're a government-funded agency. They're.
Yeah. I always thought... It's like, yeah, they send them out with sort of riot shields and everything, but the big robot scorpion things that can or robot spiders that can go about and capture mutants, like, no, we'll just leave them behind. Let's go out with the plastic riot shield, Yeah,
we won't need much more than that. And we do have a couple of mutants that will help us. The hounds, as they're called. Yeah. And again, you got a bit of that where John was like, "That's my friend," or "That's this guy we used to know," and they do a bit of that, but not too much of it. And I kind of think that John was a bit underwhelming as a character most of the time because he's just kind of unemotional most of the time. He's just this strong guy, and I really hated the bit where Marcos was told him to go train Clarice, and it's like. The Native American trying to impart wisdom? No. and you had this whole, like, you need to clear your mind and all this crap, and it's like, you're just leaning into the stereotype here. This is really awkward.
Yeah, there's a bit of the obvious there.
Yeah. Luckily it didn't work, and Clarice was like, what? This is rubbish. But still, like, the fact is that, just because you're being inclusive with mutants doesn't mean you don't have to deal with the actual stereotypes that are associated with the races of the mutants that you've cast, thankfully they didn't do anything Asian with Clarice or whatever else. But that was one bit that really stood out to me. It was like the Asian guy imparting wisdom. Nah. Not the Asian, the Native American guy imparting wisdom.
With a tracking ability as well, just to really sort of hit it home was a bit...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's his power set in the comics.
Yeah, but still, it seems a bit obvious. But yeah, I get it. They're working with it, and it was quite an interesting mix of powers that they gave as well. Yeah. They didn't seem to throw too many weird things out there. It was quite a neat set. They didn't overpower it. Yeah. Like I say, I think all of them working together are quite a powerful unit, but I like that if you sort of break them into teams of 2 or 3, they're not able to sort of take down entire squads of bad guys, If they get surrounded by 2 or 3, they can't do anything about it, really. Yeah. It's, they really need to be all together for it to be a true threat.
Yeah, well, there was so much of it barely escaping, and you had that bit where Lorna was... captured in the first episode because they were just a bit overwhelmed by Sentinel Services and people that were after them. So, you had a bit of that. That was good. Early on, actually, I thought Lorna was the best character. The prison stuff was great. The seeing her in prison, she couldn't get along with the other inmates because she was a mutant. They didn't like mutants either. And there was all that really interesting stuff. You had the complication of her pregnancy. So she was like this pregnant... Well, not quite teen, but she's this pregnant young woman in jail, and they're offering her deals, and we'll keep you in prison, but we'll give you visitation with your child as long as you turn in your friends and all that stuff. Although as it went on, she got a bit too kind of standoffish. I mean, I get the whole, she's her father's daughter and is all about, let's be militant, let's get things done, and I'll train the New Mutants to fight. And it was a couple of episodes of her chucking stuff at them.
Yeah, that did seem. What a way to learn to fight, by getting concrete flung at you, reinforced concrete or knives getting flung in your general direction. If
I
that doesn't make you learn to
deals
fight,
with things getting thrown at me.
Yeah, my mutant ability of breaking microphones is not helping here. No. I can change TV channels in other rooms. What do you want me to do with a knife?
Yeah.
I kind of get it, but it was good to see. But that seemed to get forgotten again. The fight training's happening. That seemed to be sort of one episode where they were focusing on, it's inappropriate to train some of these people to fight.
Yeah.
About 2 episodes of it, and then it's gone. It's like no one's getting fight training anymore.
Yeah, her relationship with Marcos was interesting, at least to begin with. I liked the dynamic they had. The episode where she was out of prison and they worked together to take down that drone was probably my favourite action sequence of the entire series, because it was very much, here's the characters, here's what they're capable of, here's how well they work together, and it tells you a lot about them. And and you don't see anything. You just see the drone blow up kind of off screen in the background, and it's like, no, the important stuff's in here. The important stuff is what these people are doing. You don't need to see the fireworks of the drone blowing up. It was she used her powers to levitate the mirror, and then he fired the light at the mirror and ricocheted off. And again, that was limitations. She was like, I can't reach it with my powers from where it is. So that was good stuff.
No, I did like seeing them working together, but like we said earlier on about repetitive arguments and repetitive scenes, you kind of feel like your relationship hasn't moved anywhere because you're still having the exact same arguments. And obviously that stepped up a notch with the final episode, but you kind of feel, did we need to see it repetitively at that point to try and hit it home at the end?
Yeah.
Or would we have, if we'd only seen that argument happening once or twice, would we then, by the end, have been going, hang on, I don't understand why she suddenly changed sides. She hasn't been arguing about this every episode.
Yeah.
So I get it, and it brings conflict to either side. You've then got the obvious thing of, if they come up against each other, would he try and prevent her doing something? Would he wimp out of doing anything to her? Because obviously she's carrying his child, so he can't, how do you disable her without causing any harm?
Yeah.
Tough. So it's going to be, it's an obvious conflict to do if they do a second season of this. It's an obvious sort of conflict to bring in, an easy way for her to escape almost, and for him to be blamed for her escape and whatever she does next.
Yeah, and the decision she makes to blow up the plane, like destroy the plane with her powers, I thought it was really good because you could see it going either way. And they'd spent enough time building up, like Esme sort of corrupting her, with the looking at the Hellfire Club in a different way. I found that quite interesting. And so her coming around to that way of thinking and deciding that, what, humans suck, why do we bother? And I'm just going to do this. And then she turns up and tries to recruit some of the team, some of the underground, because that's what Magneto does. And, that's what Magneto's daughter will do as well. And it was very much like that First Class scene, the end of First Class, where it's like, let's make this decision. You have a choice. Come with me. Stay with them, and you get the idea that don't get in our way, and we won't bother you anymore. But you still have that relationship is still there. I mean, Marco's Marco's child is still being carried by her. So you've still got something that will bring them together again in the next season, but they have vastly different ideologies now, and that's interesting.
No, definitely. Like you say, podcast drinking game. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Well, that again.
that line from Chris. Imagine. It's almost like he does the same thing on repeat. Every episode, it's like the same conversation comes out of him. I don't get it.
There is no Chris. I just recorded some stuff from some guy one time. I just play them at random. And no one's noticed so far. So, well,
it's a soundboard, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
There's so many different things that they can do with it. It brings an interesting conflict. I like the way that they've sort of went, okay, not only is there going to be rival agencies, there's going to be rival people out there, humans against mutants. There's going to be these purists, whatever we're calling them. I can't remember the proper one that we had settled on. And there's going to be the Sentinel services, and now there's going to be two sets on the mutant side. Yeah. You know, as much as there were two sets there towards the end, they were still sort of working as one. Yeah. But now you're going to have sort of all four, and are some of those going to make alliances with each other, or are some of those going to fight each other in more violent ways? It'll be interesting to see.
Oh, definitely. And I found the stuff kind of underneath that to be quite fascinating as well. You had Lauren saying to Andy, "We're not little kids playing X-Men anymore," and you've got this whole thing about like, in this whatever universe, whatever timeline this is set in, because who the hell knows at this point? The X-Men movie timeline is just all over the place, and it's almost a joke at this point. But you can take that in this world, the X-Men existed at one point and kind of still do, although they're in hiding or possibly dead, who knows. But what you had was they were kind of heroically, I don't know, they were heroically regarded at one point, at least according to some characters. So what you had was, apparently when Lauren and Andy were much younger, or not that much younger, they were pretending to be X-Men in the backyard kind of thing. So what you've got is these figures who have achieved kind of a legendary status, and these legendary people they can't really live up to their ideals. What the underground are experiencing is what life must really be like to be the X-Men. You know, always looking over your shoulder, always in danger of being caught out, always in danger of this, that, and the other. And the reality of it is much harder to uphold your ideals when you're actually having them directly challenged like that. It's all well and good to say you'll stand up and be like, "No, I'm not accepting this," but literally everything is acting against them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting in a way, because it's almost like Logan, where the X-Men is a comic book. You know, they have a comic book that has stories about the X-Men, and you could almost imagine a similar type thing existing in the universe, whatever universe The Gifted sits in. Yeah. You know, that's why they're playing X-Men, because it's a comic book, it's a fun thing, it's a story, it's a set of heroes.
Yeah.
That you want to play, and it's fun. Where and that's why they'd be known, that's why they'd be regarded. But you get these hints throughout that, the X-Men set us up, and then you've got the Brotherhood set up the Hellfire Club to kind of put the two together, and both organisations disappeared. You know, the Brotherhood vanished in their particular direction. Professor X is having another one of his "I'm going to go into hiding" faces, I presume. But like you say, you don't know what the setup is at this point. So yeah, they've got a lot of directions they can go. I think it would have been more interesting if it had been more specific, perhaps. It might have given people a little bit more interest to find out. I mean, at this point, I'm like, well, if at this point the X-Men are out there, and they're just like, oh yeah, we set up this little underground thing, let's check in on it from time to time and see how it's doing. You would hope at some point they would go, oh, their headquarters got destroyed. Oh, we should go in and help. Yeah. You know, if they appear in season 3 and go, well, we watched what happened in the events of season 1, we watched what happened in the events of season 2, and then we finally decided at this point, you know, whatever the hell you've now done, we're going to give you a little hand here, be it a little bit of financial backing or some resources, or someone comes to lend a hand. I don't know who. I don't think they'd ever get one of the full blown, you know, the A-team of X-Men. But, you know, someone comes, or they find someone, or they help someone out of a bind, and that gives them the contact, perhaps, that they haven't had up until that point.
Well, there was a flashback where Lorna was recruited by that dragon lady, like that lady who turned into a dragon. I can't remember her name, something Meredith or something like that, something Whedon. I forget the actual name of the character. It'll be in the show notes, so if you're interested enough, look there.
Well, I couldn't tell if that was like an X-Men like reference, or if that was just this was one of the founding members of the Mutant Underground. Yeah.
Well, it's both, isn't it? I mean, it's the idea that the X-Men were decided we're going to need some people to continue the fight and keep us safe, we can't do it anymore for some reason. I don't know, maybe because we're lazy. Wolverine's drunk. Cyclops is useless. Jean Grey is dead or alive or who knows. I don't know what she's doing. Beast he's upside down reading his book. He'll be a while. There's things like that. It's one of those. It's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in some ways. It's like we've got all this really expensive stuff just happening over there.
If we just panned the camera slightly to the left, you would not believe what you are seeing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people sort of holding their hand up above their eyes, looking towards the sky and going, wow, look at that.
Yeah,
if you could just see.
Yeah. See the helicarrier crashing, it's like, oh, wow, that looks really impressive and expensive. But we can't show it here. That kind of stuff. It's... I suppose it's difficult. Like, you can't expect X-Men characters to show up, and I don't think it actually needs that, because what would it really bring to the show? Would Xavier turn up? Would it be Patrick Stewart turning up saying, "Hello, guys, nice job"? What would he actually bring with his presence? Plus, he's still ambiguously going to show up on Legion. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not, like I say, I'm not expecting an A-Team Avenger to turn up. What I'm expecting is someone to be helped out. They find someone locked in a cell or almost getting held up by Sentinel services, and they manage to help them out, and that establishes some form of contact.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Polaris, aka Lorna, she's quite a big deal in the X-Men comics. She was, I think she was on X Factor, the team. I guess the Fenris twins, they're quite prominent as well. So they do have reasonably heavy hitters kicking about, and I imagine they'll introduce more as time goes on. But it has to get to a point where you have to stop referencing stuff and show us stuff. It's like, can we just see Superman and Supergirl now? You talk about them every week. We can't, you can't just have them off screen all the time. And so they either have to get to a point where they don't talk about the X-Men ever again, or they have to drop the ball on it a little bit. Show us something.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's like you can only hint for so long, and you can only get away with that. Wow, if only you could see for so long, and then you've actually got to show stuff.
I mean, it does work that they're a collection of ideals to be lived up to for the first season, I think, and in the same way that the Brotherhood are a collection of ideals to not live up to. And I guess the truth is somewhere in between, because the way that the Underground have interpreted what the X-Men want isn't stable, because nobody feels safe, not everyone is on board with their way of thinking, and they're just kind of lurking around in fear because they just don't know what's happening, don't know what's coming next. And I like the reaction they had to Caitlin's when she was talking in the last episode, and it's like, well, actually, since you two showed up, we've lost our bases, we're now stuck in this random safe house, half the team's left, it's all your fault. And it's hard to disagree with them, really.
No, I follow.
Yeah,
I follow that.
There's a lot going on. That's one of the problems it has, where there's just, let's chuck it all at the screen and see what happens, and then we'll maybe pick stuff later to focus on. But it just means that there's a lot of episodes where it just feels like just a smattering of stuff before it finishes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I kind of feel it was one of these things where they're like, oh, well, we're going to try a bit of teen drama, we're going to try a bit of family relationship dynamic, we're going to try, the sort of heist of the week format, we're going to try a bit of, a bit of relationship drama in here, we're going to put a bit of this, we're going to put the sort of authorities in. It's come out as a bit of a mishmash, and I don't know. I'd find it hard to pick, to be honest, and I don't envy them trying to sort of go, okay, well, we're going to drop this and carry on this and do that. And it's almost like they're setting up, by the end of this, they are setting up to go a slightly different direction with it.
Yeah.
You are splitting up, some of those relationships that we've seen going in circles for the last few weeks have went, okay, well, we're going to rock that up because they're not going to be there to be a confidant to that person anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to have to deal with it themselves. They're going to have to put on the big boy pants on and make decisions rather than, oh, mum, dad, what should I be doing right now? I don't like what you've decided I should be doing, but I'm going to do it anyway because that's what I've been told. Yeah. There's a bit of that that's going to be a change, but then are you just going to find the same thing circling again in that new dynamic? Every week it's going to be, we want you to use your powers to do something like that. I don't want to do that. And you get it in the same bit on a different bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Could be. Actually, I was thinking, like, recently, one show I would quite like to see set in the X-Men universe is give us that high school drama. I mean, it sounds really weird that I'm saying I want to watch a high school drama, but, like, I'd quite like to see a TV show from the perspective of the teenagers at, like, Xavier's school. Or if not Xavier's school, just one of his offshoots. Like, it could be a school that he founded in another part of the country or whatever. I mean, it's like, I've never watched Riverdale, but, like, Riverdale with mutants. Stuff like that, you know, or... Well, let's not say.
I suppose so.
Let's not say the OC with mutants, but you know that kind of idea. Dawson's Creek with mutants. Let's go for that.
Do you know what? It's true. It would be a different dynamic, and even if you did set it to an extent in Xavier's school or an offshoot somewhere or a different campus, I don't know if that's.
It just has to be a school. You know, it doesn't matter.
The comic
really.
A school, a school with mutants and do it that way, or a group of teens around about the same time in a school discover they're mutants and try and hide it, or do something. I don't know really, but yeah, you could get something interesting out of that. It could also be an absolute disaster, but you know.
Yeah, well,
but it seems that they are going along the line of creating more of these programs. You know, they do seem to be going, right, we're going to use more of this universe. Whether that continues under the new tenure or not, I don't know. But they do seem to be going.
Yeah. I've heard that Runaways is essentially high school superpower stuff, at least at the beginning, though. Although I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen one episode, and I quite liked it. But that's a Marvel show, and I don't know what Marvel would do with the X-Men property once they have a proper hold of it. You know, once they decide what they're going to do with it. I think there's sort of infinite scope to do stuff, and I think I suppose it depends on the whole. How many superhero shows are people prepared to watch on television? I'm at critical mass right now.
Yeah, I've got to say, I've got to be honest with this, and I suppose I should have led with this at the beginning when you're saying sort of spoiler-free thoughts. I watched the first, I think, about 6-7 episodes or so, up to its little break. And then I stopped watching because I was watching all the other stuff that was on telly at the same time, and it was sort of Christmas and stuff, but I never felt a big drive to go back to this until we were coming very, very close to doing the podcast. And I can't quite put my finger on what made me decide, out of the other sort of superhero-y shows that are on and all this, that this one would go back a few steps than the others, and would only be watched occasionally if I sort of had time and would catch up on a couple of episodes at a time. I felt with the first few episodes there was almost a sense of urgency to watch to find out how they go. Are they protected? Are they going to be caught? Are they going to get? Is the father going to get out of jail? Is this going to happen? Is that, are they going to get kept by the underground, or are they going to get thrown out? There was a bit of like, I want to watch and see what happens next.
Yeah.
And then towards the middle, there was like, I don't feel any urgency in this. It seems like, well, we're actually now quite comfy. We're safe. We're sort of going out doing odd missions, but then we're always back to Sanctuary. Which is maybe why at the beginning of the next season it'll be more interesting, because they're not going to have all the protection that they had before. They're still going to have some of it, but not the full barriers that they had in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, the fact that I was reviewing it meant that I kept up with it, but there was just kind of a few weeks where I was like, yeah, this is okay. I mean, the thing is, it never got to the point where I was actively not enjoying it. There was parts of episodes where I just could be arsed, and this, like, I could skip this scene and I wouldn't miss anything, that kind of thing. But I'm not interested in these characters, so I don't really pay that much attention to them. But it never dazzled me to the point where it was must-see television, unfortunately. And the thing is, like, there was a certain appeal to watching Inhumans because it was just so bad, and every week it was like, what are they going to screw up this week?
Yeah, and, what disgrace is about to appear on screen?
And it's the same with and the same with the Flash. There's like there's appeal to that where it's like, is it going to be a watchable episode or not? And or what stupid stuff are they getting up to this week? Because that's kind of what it's become. And then the other shows I actively actually enjoy, and and get a lot out of. But the thing is, right, to be honest, and it's not because it's bad. If I wasn't reviewing The Gifted, I'd have probably sacked it after probably before you did, to be honest. Because it would just be one of those things where I'm not reviewing it, it's going to fall further and further by the wayside. It was just the fact that I decided to review it because I did want to hand it off to someone else, but no one wanted it. And then...
a ringing endorsement.
I know. Judging it before it's on, but you have to make a judgment call, I suppose.
Yeah.
So then I just decided I was just going to screw this. I'll do it. And then I watched the first episode and I was like, yeah, this will give me plenty to talk about. And then
I think
as it went on, it just got progressively more mediocre.
I think recording this gave me a deadline to watch it, and I do think I would have finished it eventually, but it would have been one of those that when other programmes go on a break, or once I finish sort of binge watching something else in the background, I would go, I'll watch a few episodes, and I would eventually have finished it.
Yeah.
Just to see conclusion. But as much as I've said I'm interested to see where some of these plot points go, and TV programmes are always great at leaving you a season finale that leaves you guessing.
Yeah.
Not so much whether characters are alive or dead at this point, but kind of guessing, well, what happens? What's the solution here?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would instantly go back and start watching if they went, okay, season 2, episode 1 is going to be airing in 2 weeks' time or whatever they announce.
Yeah.
I don't think I would go rushing to go, oh my God, I've got to see how this finishes up.
Well, am I going to review season 2? Possibly. It depends what's going on at the time, There's... it depends if I've got space in my ever-winding schedule for it.
You've got a time machine, we all know it.
I wish. Like I said, 3 hours sleep. If I didn't have to sleep, I would get 3 hours back. That's it. Yes, I'm running on fumes, everyone. I'm looking forward to the summer hiatus, and TV shows are only just back.
You have fumes. I remember when I had fumes. I remember those days fondly. Another bit that I wanted to raise, and I didn't know, it's interesting because you'll either edit this out because it makes no sense and you didn't hear the same thing as me, or you'll have heard the same thing as me, or you just won't have noticed. But in TV shows and things, what they do is they record additional dialogue. So if there's been noise in the background, they'll re-record maybe lines, or the sound wasn't picked up in the room properly. They're recording a big echoey set, so they record it closer. Is it me, or were there some lines that were very, very, very obviously recorded later?
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't know if it was the speakers. I didn't know if it was the speakers on the sort of computer or the telly that I was listening it to, where I would suddenly sort of look up and go, did that sound right? What was that? Did I just adjust the volume or something there?
There was some bad dubbing.
Strange.
I'm struggling to think of specific examples, but there was.
There was a few, but it would always happen in like the middle of a line. They would cut the camera and it would be a camera to the left or something. And then suddenly the audio would all be out of whack, or a line, the tone of the line was completely different as well. And I don't know whether that was last minute, them going, oh no, we've got to change what the character says at this point. Yeah. So not even like we're trying to compensate for bad recording on the day, but almost that they've got people in at the end and gone, no, listen, we want to change the way the character reacted to that. So we're going to use an over-the-shoulder shot and them going, oh, what? No way! In there, rather than, having it the other way.
It's like Calculon. I was supposed to say no. I was supposed to say yes, but I ad-libbed.
That's the one.
Calculon for season 2. That's what we need. Calculon.
We want Calculon. Yes. Bring it back. Why not? But yeah, there was. I mean, I'm throwing it in there as I'm not sure it fits in this particular piece of the podcast, but it was one of those bits that I had on my notebook because just watching a few episodes back to back to get ready for this, I was like, that sounds really obviously dubbed, and it's not something that you notice often in TV programs. They do it. Everyone does it. It's not something that's unique to this program. It's just, I was like, oh, this is kind of obvious. And I suppose I've got to give them a bit of credit for the special effects and things that they've used in this as well. They've managed to do, on a TV budget, something quite interesting with each of the powers. They gave everyone a sort of nice little graphic-y twist to using their abilities. And I think for the budget that they probably had doing it, they've managed to achieve quite a lot for that, and that's to their credit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they did a good job with the powers, and they used them sparingly enough, but not too sparingly. It wasn't like in Humans, where no one ever used powers. You know, there was a liberal use of them. You know, they had to deploy them strategically because they cost money, fair enough. But they did a good job, and there was, the whole mutant power aspect, it feeds off the characters, and it informs the characters, and deepens them when they use them differently, and things like that, so it's all good. There was a couple of kind of weird things that I noticed. There was it's in the second last episode, you know, when they're all getting dolled up, wearing to look like security people. It's just basically an excuse for kind of gratuitous shirtless scenes. It's the bit where it's the bit where you have to see Clarice buttoning up her top because we need ratings. You know, things like that. It's kind of, it feels a bit icky and embarrassingly manipulative, but you know, whatever. These things happen in all shows, I suppose. I mean, how many episodes of Arrow did you have to watch Oliver Queen on that salmon ladder with no shirt on, just like gotta get those teenage girls in, you know, like, and that's rapidly generalising. Teenage boys as well. I'm pretty sure Oliver Queen's physique appeals to all. But you have these kind of manipulative moments, you know, it's just part and parcel of it all. But whenever it does happen, and I feel like there's no real story reason for it, I'm like, they're getting dressed. We don't need to see them getting dressed. You could be having this conversation once they're dressed, that kind of thing. But it was in that scene where they were saying, "One look at your eyes and my hair," and Lorna was referring to her green hair. It's like, who would look at someone with green hair and think, mutant? You know, let's crucify this mutant with green hair. It's like, we live in Edinburgh. You walk down Edinburgh Street, Princes Street in Edinburgh on any given day, you'll see people with green hair. It's how people express themselves. And I don't know, maybe Clarice is one of these weirdos. They're not weirdos, but one of these people that like to wear different coloured contact lenses.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that because it was like I can't remember what it was called. It wasn't Humans First, but something along those lines. The rally event that they were going to. I don't know whether it's like, oh, well, these aren't the type of people that would have security and bodyguards with green hair. Yeah. You know, it'll make people stand out a bit. Yeah, but but that was my thing. It was like, put on a wig, dye your hair. It's solved instantly. It's not.
Well,
that's not a big problem.
In the first episode, didn't she? And then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she washed it out at some point.
But the thing is, like, it's not. I mean, I get
in the prison.
I get when Polaris was introduced in the comics, it was like green hair is an example of something weird, you know. But even then, it was like the 70s or something. It's like the punk era, you know. Like, people have green hair everywhere. But whatever. It was considered one of those weird things. She has naturally green hair. It's just part of.
Yeah, but I think it was in prison that she washed it out, wasn't it? It was during the scene in prison.
Yeah, because at that point I was like, they've kind of half-assed Lorna. She's got kind of greenish hair, but not really. It was like, you know, it was like green streaks through her hair because you could see it through the dye, and then it all washed out. And I was like, now I'm happy. That's fine. That's fine. Comic accurate green hair for the win. But it's, you can solve it with a wig and a pair of shades, you know, if you really want to blend in. But it's just a small thing, and it just bugged the hell out of me, though. It really did. I don't know why. It just did. Unless you have anything further, I don't really have anything else. As a kind of general summary point, maybe we could talk all night about individual episodes or whatever else, but I'm not sure I could remember half of them. But I'm pretty okay with how the coverage has gone. I think we've covered to a certain extent. Oh, one part I forgot. Reed's family stuff was like a bit weird. The whole, you're a mutant, but we experimented on you, and now you don't have any powers. It's like, why do we need to know this? What's going on here?
Well, that's one of those things where it's like, well, this is obvious setup for later on.
Yeah.
You know, this is obvious setup for, well, we've developed a mutant cure because we now need the anti-mutant stun guns and whatever that we can deploy. You know, we've already got the sort of necklaces, you know, that can take your powers away temporary, but you know, this is a permanent solution.
Yeah.
And that research is the key, and it's a reason for the family and everything to still be tied into the storyline for later on. It's setting up for a later thing, I think. In the same way that they did the... we've analysed how you combine your powers, and we've created a very large, clunky device that allows us to do it.
Yeah.
That no one breaks apart in order to prevent their powers. We're just going to leave that hanging, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that there. Why don't we destroy that thing that's enhancing their powers? No, we'll let them keep it. Are you sure? We could just, destroy it. Nope. Let's not focus our attention on it whatsoever. Let's not shoot those cables that are on the edge of it. Nope. Just leave it there.
Yeah. And the thing is, it was all well acted and stuff, but I found that diversion a bit strange. But it was... I understand why they've done it in a way, and it was an interesting line to go on, but like you say, it was it's not been forgotten about instantly, but the impact on Reed himself didn't seem that big of him being a mutant. Yeah.
I would have been a mutant if it hadn't been for this. It didn't seem to impact him on that level. It seemed more about the fact that he had lost his dad. Though I did notice in one of the scenes in the later episodes, he refers to himself as a mutant.
Yes. I suppose he's a mutant but has no powers.
He's like,
he's like,
you are, but
he's
you
like
are,
Maximus.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, why not? Let's go along that line. But yeah, it's like I'm a mutant and my family are mutants, and you're like, well, you're not really, but fair enough.
Yeah, it's all good. So
we can put money on his powers possibly surfacing at some point.
Yeah, or you'll find some way to activate them artificially, or yeah. So yeah, is there anything else that you want to cover? Do you have any sort of final thoughts, wrap-up thoughts?
No, I think I've pretty much covered it incoherently throughout. There's interesting things that they've set up here. There's other bits that I'm not particularly interested in. It seems to have trod over some ground that Heroes covered quite well in its initial seasons.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see if they go a slightly different direction with it when it resumes, if it resumes. But overall, like I said at the beginning, one of these difficult ones where I didn't hate this. I didn't love it massively. I wasn't, sort of sitting waiting every week for the next episode, but it was all right. It was okay. It's one of those difficult ones to review, really.
Speaking of someone who had to review it every week, yes, it was very difficult to review.
That's why I don't do any of the written reviews. I just come here and talk nonsense.
Just do the easy stuff. Yeah.
I say come here and record this. What I mean is record liners in a room and then email them to Craig for him to play out when he chats to himself.
And then I press a button. It's all good. Oh, interestingly, Marvel have just revealed the new X-Men team that has Lorna on it, or Polaris. So there you go. Yeah. Of course she is.
Are you rapidly googling season 2 on the cards or release dates?
I just came across it. It came up on my Twitter feed, so that's it. There we go. Something to think about in comics that I wouldn't read. So there we go. So on that note, I think it's possibly time to end season 1 of The Gifted. It was all right. That's my kind of scenario. I liked your sort of half-baked offline description yesterday. It's Magnolia. So, it's...
There was a very, very long offline discussion yesterday about a magnolia wall and describing a magnolia wall. And I suppose it doesn't really do the programme that much justice describe it. It's a wall that's been painted well. It's not been painted badly, but it's not amazing. It's not sort of Sistine Chapel wall painting good, but it's all right. It's there. It's a wall. It is painted. Yeah.
So there you go. The Gifted is the televisual equivalent of Magnolia paint. That is the thought we'll leave you on. So, Chris, thank you for coming on and talking superheroes once again. We will most likely be back to talk... What will be up next? Discovery?
Discovery, possibly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we've got coming up. Who knows in the future?
Idea. Yeah.
Stay tuned to this feed for more.
We will have another podcast. In the meantime, you can satisfy yourself by listening to our Black Lightning first episode podcast that lasts over twice as long as the episode itself.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's not even a commentary track. It lasts longer than that.
Yeah. You've got to start the programme all over again in order for the commentary track to fit.
You have to watch it twice while we're talking over it, and you're still not done. There's still more. There we go. So once again, thank you for joining, and that's me. Yeah, your mutant power of turning something off,
breaking microphones at
microphones.
5 paces.
Yeah, and I'm going to hope mine doesn't cause me to erase this podcast from existence. Maybe listeners would enjoy that.
Yeah.
So, thanks again, Chris, for the third time.
Thank you very much again, Craig. I think your mutant ability is wrapping up podcasts.
That was our discussion on Season 1 of The Gifted. Thanks to YouTuber Einstein1117 for the supply music. If you like what you heard here, then please do subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. And join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.